Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Guys, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and we are here for another double tag Tuesday. Trying to catch up on all these tags. I am so thankful. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. I'm so sorry. I have been tagged by CG Rated Books for both these tags I'm going to be discussing. So that's Rock On Song Book Tag and the Saw's Law book tag. So for this first book tag, this was originally created with Nicole from Nicole's Bookish Nook. And so, yeah, then I was tagged by CG Rated Books. And so these are basically like prompts all based around songs that Nicole has chosen for us to kind of like expand from there. So here we go. The first prompt is It's a Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. Discuss a book about an orphanage, a poor family, or an orphan. The only one I can think of is Anne of Green Gables. That has been adapted like several times into one is a TV series that I grew up with. I still have the DVDs, okay? And I think maybe that came out in the 80s, the mid 80s. I don't know. Someone's gonna correct me. I still love that one. There was an adaptation that came out for Netflix. I also like that one too. I just don't revere it as much as the adaptation that I saw. And apparently there's another adaptation floating around that I haven't seen. But I love the spirit of the character as so many other people do. This is a character, a young character that had a difficult life and was kind of treated like a laborer rather than a child, someone that's a part of the family. And to see someone like that be brought up into a home and just be loved and really cherished for who they are as like a whole person, just like always really stuck out to me. And so Anna Green Gables, that's the one for me. Prompt 2, Walk This Way by Aerosmith. A favorite book of yours that blends genres. And I don't know if you could hear it, but Ginger is snoring. She's off camera, but she's here. So if you hear that noise, just know it's my cat. I would say And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. I have brought this up before. But I feel like it's one of those books that I've read that I keep thinking about, and at some point I need to do a reread of that book. And Then She Fell is written by Alicia Elliott. They are an indigenous person, and I believe it's like on their father's side, and their mother is white. I bring this specifically up because it comes up in her work, whether it's her nonfiction short story collection that's more like a memoir, really. This is her first work of fiction, and it's a genre bender, or blender, I guess you could say. So it has elements of horror, sci-fi, speculative fiction, also in a way like contemporary fiction. It's about a woman who's just given birth to her first child. She leaves the reservation and moves into a suburb with her husband that happens to be a white. He was a professor, so he's in academia, and all the pressures of being a woman, being a mother, but also there's all these different roles that people kind of thrust upon her, and the expectation of how she's supposed to perform those roles, all the while her mental health is deteriorating. There's also like this, I want to say like a unreliable, potentially problematic ancestor in the mix. And I found that to really stick out to me in a way. So she just really brought so much, the author brought so much to this book in a way that I haven't read before, and I love all the genre bending. Um, it's very unsettling, but also feels like it almost feels like anyone can pick up the book and feel like they could relate to it in a way, even though it's someone else's like cultural experience. I guess I really honed in on how society expects people to play certain roles versus being themselves. And that, anyway, that just really stuck out to me, and I think it's very powerful. Um, so that their prompt is "Just Lose It," Eminem, a book that you think is funny or ridiculous in a bad way. Well, the book wasn't funny. I did find it ridiculous in a bad way, and that's Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. I didn't finish reading it. I tried. I did get into like quite a bit of a chunk of it. I the It's a revered book. I understand in terms of how the book is written, why it's revered. Um, and I felt like even though I feel like saying stream of conscious is the wrong word, but I felt like this is the first time I felt like a writer was writing in a way I could understand with someone like me that has such a busy brain. But it was just sometimes I couldn't tell that there's just a lot of problems with that book. It's a problematic book. And so I just couldn't stomach it. So I guess I'm glad I gave it a try. I'm glad I'm never going to pick it up again. 4. Thunderstruck, ACDC, a book that shocked you in a good way. Oh, I should have grabbed it. We had a little real estate problem. This is a nonfiction book. I can't think of the author's name right now. This author loves comedy, so he has written a whole other nonfiction book about like the history of comedy. This is also tackling the same subject, but it's specific to comedians that also happen to be indigenous. The author themselves is not indigenous, again, but they love comedy. That's their passion, and so I appreciated the way they wrote the book. I don't know if everyone else feels that way, or I haven't seen like a whole bunch of reviews about the book. I think it came out probably around the pandemic, just because I saw plenty of interviews via Zoom. Um, we do learn about all these different comedians, whether they're from the past or current comedians right now. Some of these comedians don't have large platforms, but we really get a sense of how much they have a love, how much they have a passion for what they do, whether they're financially successful or not. Just comedians really like grinding. And there is an aspect of this that was shocking, and that was like early on. There are just certain stories I did not anticipate um, reading, and that is like some of the terrible, terrible experiences children went through at residential schools. And I think at the time when I had picked up the books, I hadn't had. I don't know if I've read any. I probably read like maybe 2 other books that talked about like the residential schools that Indigenous people were forced into. But this is like the first one where I read something that was so specific and unfortunately graphic, and it was just so unsettling. Um, so you get like the sense of like sometimes how humor could be like a coping mechanism, and I know like a lot of us during the pandemic could relate to that. It's a great book. I wish there was more. Wish there was more people talking about it. So prompt 5. Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses, a book about LA or a book that takes place in or around LA. You know what? I'm in Los Angeles. I could not think of anything off the top of my head. Probably Shot Girl by Steve Martin. Steve Martin has written quite a few books. I haven't read all of them because he's written a lot. But there are quite a few of them, and I don't know if they're all like this, but they're specifically take place in Los Angeles. And in fact, when I read Shop Girl, he just and he really does use like real life like locations. So even though it's like a Shop Girl is a work of fiction, I read it and I knew exactly like what areas he was talking about. So that was delightful. Um, Gimme All Your Lovin', ZZ Top, a romance book. I'm gonna not talk about a specific book, but more like a series. Lila Sage wrote Rebel Blue Ranch. I'm not that into romance. I've definitely like dipped into it and I've been pleasantly surprised because it's just not a genre I really like gravitate towards. It's not like the first thing I'm gonna pick up. I buddy read the first book in the series with my friend Sam, and I had plenty of critiques for that first book, but I still loved it. I still enjoyed it. Um, the entire there's like 4 books, and it's about uh, a family that owns a ranch, and so it's like uh, one sister. I'm trying to think about. I'm like, how many books are there? So that's 3. Is it 4 or 5? So it's like one sister, 2 brothers, and I think the last book, it's actually about one of the brothers' exes that he has a child with. And so there's a sense of like a family growing up having so much love for each other, but also like found family, right? And that's the element of this other character that's not like blood related, but has a character, has a child with one of the brothers. And so that's so loud outside. Why are you here now? All right. I guess I'll keep talking about the book. Um, so it's like the first one is it Done and Dusted? Done and Dusted, Swift and Saddled, Lost and Lassoed, and Wild and Rankled. Okay. So yeah, each book focuses on a different couple, but that's not enough for me. I have to be like invested in like another way. And that is like the sense of like this family just really being there for each other. Each character, each story feels like unique. The characters feel so like specific. Um and so I fell in love with all the characters and also the patriarch of the family. I'm sorry, it's so loud. All right. 7. Fight for Your Right to Party, Beastie Boys, a book centered around a celebration. There's, I would say, I'd say it's a celebration of life. So I'm kind of cheating here because I couldn't think of like a celebratory type book. You Gotta Be You by Brandon K. Goodman. Um, I felt like that was a celebration of self acceptance and teaching the reader to have like a radical amount of like empathy. So it's a memoir, and the author is non-binary, so they go by he, they, them, and they talk about their experiences, but also, having boundaries for sometimes family and being okay with that, but also having like an abundance of love and compassion and really seeing from that other person's point of view, even though if it's harmful to them, they at least see how like where they're coming from. And that's something I really connected with, and I like strive to keep doing that. And they definitely have a very much like a non-judgmental spirit, and that's something that I'm just constantly working towards. And so I felt like I got a lot from that book. There is like an element of like self-help from it, but I felt like it really worked for me because it didn't feel didactic, if that makes any sense. So it was just really beautiful. And I felt like the author's also just celebrating themselves and like all the ways it took for them to get to that place of also just like love for themselves. So the eighth prompt is Firestarter Prodigy, a book that has fire in the title or has an orange or red cover. Um, it's right behind me and I totally forgot to grab it. So it's called The Fire This Time by Jasmine Ward. It's an anthology. Oh, God. Let's see if I'm going to get it. So it's a new generation speaks about race. Um, and I mean, you can see I have so many little tabbies on here because I just really love the book so much. So we're hearing from all these different authors and their experiences, and um, they just had like plenty to say. There is one, I don't know if it's in this book, I think it is, that really just stuck out to me. But I highly recommend that you pick it up. And you know what? I love anthologies. So like it's such a great way to get to know a bunch of authors that you may not know about. And also then I also, at some point there are contributors of authors that I do know, and it feels like really beautiful that they're all coming together and that you get like this quick snippet of like their perspective. And because in anthologies, an author really has to like be so precise in the point that they're making, it really like packs a punch in a way for me. So that's the one that I really love. All right. So the ninth prompt, uh, Humble, Kendrick and Lamar, a book that left you stunned at the audacity of the main character or the writer. And I'd have to say, this is like the last prompt for this tag. Kill the Body Thief in the Vampire Chronicles. So we're still following Lestat as the main character. He was so wild in that book. That was another book that I hadn't read in a long time, and I was excited to pick it up. But he just does so many horrendous things. It's a very confusing, like, adventure book of a character that doesn't listen to anyone and then gets themselves in like so much trouble and yet still can't. The Vampire Lestat is like the vampiric version of Curious George. I think I've come to that realization. That's who he is. He gets in a bunch of trouble, and everyone just at the end just looks at him and says, "Well, you're adorable, so we'll help you clean up." That's basically what's going on with him. And so yeah. Oh, the audacity of Lestat. All right, so yeah, CG rated books also tagged me in this next book tag, and it's called the Sod's Law book tag. So apparently, according to Wikipedia, the Sod's Law is a British cultural axiom that states if something can do wrong, it will. It also refers that the misfortune will happen at the worst time possible. This particular term is more commonly used in the United Kingdom, while in North America, the phrase Murphy's Law is more popular. And so, thank you for tagging me CG rated books. I finally got around to it months later. All right, so this one also has 9 prompts. The video you spent the most time on and are most proud of is likely to get the least views. Name that video. Um, Here's the deal. I couldn't. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time fishing around my videos. I did have a live discussion about Operation Nemesis recently by Eric Bogosian. Um, and it's not really so much about the video. It's more like I am proud of like the conversation that me and Quana from her Real Reviews Reads had. I think I want there to be more traction on it just because I want more people to read the book. I was so delightfully delightfully surprised. Like, I think this is the first time at this whole readathon where I had people show up to the live that read the book. And um, that just felt so beautiful. Um, it was a big learning curve for me and Quana and for so many of the people in the chat that read along with us. And it just felt so good that we actually had this communal experience of having a chance to discuss a book about a subject matter that we didn't really know a lot about and just dig in and deeply. Um, and so I'll forever be proud of that one in particular, especially since it's a nonfiction book and it's tackling such like an important conversation about the cycle of trauma and violence, and also like embedded within a readathon, but mainly the book. I think that was it. That was the focus for me. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. I just hope more people view it, not anything to do with my channel or anything like that, but just because I want more people to be interested in picking up the book and discussing it. So that's kind of how I feel about that. All right, number 2, the video that you had the most disaster putting together. Uh, it's not a specific one. It says book tags in general. Um, I've been on BookTube for a couple of years now, but there's just so much I didn't really understand how like book tags work. Early on in creating book tags, there's a couple of times where I've had to I've had to record some videos like a couple of times. And I felt like a little bit lost about like the whole process. So it's something fun to do. I enjoy it, but getting in the groove of it, it took some time. All right, prompt 3, opposite to prompt 1. The video you threw together off the cuff with minimal work is the one that gets the most views. Name that video, which is very funny because it's true. I did the Vampire Lestat trailer reaction. I don't know if I have another video that's gotten that many views, but it kind of like tickled me. I didn't have preparation for it. I did like I watched the trailer and I took like stills, but really I didn't do any outlining for the conversation I was gonna have. And that was just because honestly, I'm just a fan of the Vampire Chronicles, and more importantly, I'm such a huge fan of the adaptation. I have so much love for it. So by the time I came around to discussing it, I don't think there was a lot of there was like no outlining. I just was like waxing poetic about what we've seen. And I think it's not just that, it's just like so many people love this show. Like I don't know how well the show's doing, like in terms of numbers. Like, I don't know how that works, but I hope it's doing well because the people that do watch it are so passionate and have so many point of views, and that can only be done if the adaptation is done like effectively. Um, and so yeah, I'm starting to gush about the show again instead of staying on topic. But yeah, that's the one I put the least amount of like outlining to, some to none, right? But yeah, I'm just that. What else can I say? Prompt 4. Don't believe the hype. The book you were really excited for and looking forward to that was a letdown. What was it this year? I read Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. I listened to interviews with the author. I kind of feel like at some point I want to get into reading more like spycraft type books. And maybe I just haven't read enough, but I think I was just expecting something more than what I got. It just kind of fell a bit flat for me. And so that was a little bit of a bummer. And so it was a little bit difficult for me to dismantle and talk about when maybe I just thought it was going to be something else other than what it really was, but oh well. Prompt 5. The book You're excited to read, but every time you try to read it, something happens and you end up reading something else instead. That has definitely happened to me with Earth Divers by Stephen Graham Jones. So it's already December, so I'm trying to turn back time here. November, October, September was my break time for my readathon, or supposedly my break time for readathon. So I wanted to have like a comic book segment during the break between my readathon. And for some reason, okay, so Earth Divers, I liked it, but it was so difficult for me to like get through, and I don't know why. I still don't have an answer. I enjoyed it, and it has all the elements of a comic book, not just a comic book, but a story that I would like. It's by an indigenous author. It's like sci-fi. It's like apocalyptical. We're stepping into history. So if you like Octavia E. Butler's Kindred, because the author really plays with like sci-fi, but to step into history, that's kind of something similar that's going on with Earth Divers. And I don't know what it was. I enjoyed it, but it just like I would pick it up, read a little bit, and then go to something else. I don't have the answer yet. 6, a booktube event you keep meaning to participate in, but you never do. NetGalley. So I think I learned about NetGalley last year because there are NetGalley sprints, and that's by the booktuber Coda, I think, and also Dusty Book Sniffer, I think, which is I believe their name is Nicole. I think they're like the co-host, if I remember correctly, and another group of people. But all these sprints were popping up last year on November, and that's when I learned about NetGalley, and I think it's very cool. I just have not had the time to participate. That's going to be like something like way in the back burner. Even next year, I'm not going to participate. But it's other booktubers have graciously lent their time and like explained to me very patiently what NetGalley is. I was like totally confused. So that's a whole other platform in the future if I ever want to try accessing books to be sent my way to read before releases. That's definitely an option. But I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now with everything. But it's definitely something I want to participate in, and I think it's really cool. And also just overall, as like next year when I'm not involved, not next year, after next year when I'm not doing my readathon, I definitely want to be more invested in more like community events rather than like helming one, because I do think that I don't always get a chance to participate in so many other things because I'm busy doing my own thing. Um, 7, a book you've ended up with multiple copies of because you didn't think you had it. I don't think I've had that necessarily, that particular instance of not realizing I had the book, but I have bought a book multiple times. In fact, I don't think I have a copy of it right now. And that is Mark Danielewski's House of Leaves. I think they just had their 20th anniversary recently of that of that book. So that means that came out in my 20s. That's kind of like I want to say it's like a cult classic, but is it? I don't know how well it sold, but it's a book that it's kind of like a book within a book. So there's like two different storylines going on. And what that author is known for is how he plays with how text is laid out to also participate in the storytelling. So if you pick up the book and you just like flip to a page, you might think it's a little bit gimmicky, I think. But actually, when you read the book, it's very much a part of the experience. And I really like what he did there. It was so engrossing. But again, I haven't read it in ages, but it is one of those books where I had a copy and I thought this book was so great that I kept giving other people my copy. So then I'd have to go buy another one. I'm like, okay, this one will be for me. and then I'll talk about it, and I realize the person next to me, like, or whoever I'm talking to, hasn't read it, so then I give them my copy, and I just kept doing that because I love the book so much. So now I don't have a copy. Prompt 8. The video you have been trying to get together for the longest time that you just never get around to because of events. And there's still noise outside. That would be like my comic book confessions. I'm pretty sure by the time this comes out, I would have already released it. It's December. I should have had mine done 2 months ago. But again, that's because I couldn't, I just hadn't finished Earth Divers. It took me forever to finish it. So that delayed me getting comic book confessions out because I want to start like a book haul. So, like, what am I reading, or like my TBR basically. And then wrap up by the end of the month, and then that's it. That would be like a quick and easy thing to do. But I kind of like messed up my own schedule, so I don't know. And because of that, I don't know if I'm going to be doing comic book conventions for this month. I probably won't be, to be honest. Um, so it's definitely one of those like erratic segments I put together. All right, 9. A book you keep trying to buy is never around, or other things thwart your ability to buy it. All right, so here's the thing. Um, there's a book I want. There's a local secondhand bookstore near me. The owner knows I'm trying to pick up books by Gui Wationgo, specifically his memoirs. I think he has 4 total. They're like specific within like the memoir. I don't want to call that genre. He writes like so much other nonfiction. Um, because I want physical copies, because I like to have my notes there, and I want to have a book discussion next year regarding his memoirs, because I want to like celebrate his activism in his life. Um, but I only have like 3. I'm still waiting on one more, and the lovely owner of Sideshow Books knows. I text him and he'll tell me what books are available, or I'll stop by randomly and he's like, I have another book by the author. So he's grabbing them from me and like thinking of me, which is very sweet. Um, so yeah, there's this one more he hasn't come across, and I'm trying not to just go out right and like I don't want to. I'm trying to do more like library and secondhand. If I do pick up a book, I'm trying to be like better about that. So that's kind of where I'm at. And that is the last question in the prompt. So wish me luck for picking up that book. If you've watched this, this is the double tag Tuesday, so these are kind of lengthy. Thank you. Consider yourself tagged if you'd like to participate. Um, Also, yeah, I'll tag some people below in case they're interested. But again, I'm so behind in tags. So if I tag you and you've done this tag before, I'm so sorry. I'm just I'm so behind. So just keep in mind that like life is chaos. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and read more books. Bye.